I'll fuck you till you love me.
Hey yo, back to making
I know the art of fight, I know the art of war. That's all I ever studied. That's why I'm so feared. That's why they feared me when I was in the big.
So recently I covered an anime called How Heavy Are the Dumbbells You Lift, and in that video I basically said that the show just hits the right spot, where it seemed like the creators took all the things I liked and mixed them together, like it was made just for me. And here we have a similar situation. Southpaw feels like a movie that was made for me, from the director, to the writer, to the stars, to the music, and just the overall concept. Again, it was like someone reached into my brain, grabbed all the things I liked, and mixed them together. And what you get is basically this movie, and I love it. Now, why is that the case? On the surface it seems like a pretty solid boxing movie that received some pretty mixed but mostly positive reviews, scoring decently well all around, and even performed pretty decent at the box office, pulling in $95 million on a $30 million budget. But it did make an impact compared to, say, Rocky, Raging Bull, The Fighter, or hell, even Creed. But yep, here I am with a stylish Blu-ray steel cover, just wanted to show this off, just bear with me, as well as making this video, a video about a movie that many might have forgotten about. Well, I want to go ahead and talk about it for a bit and see if I can convey why I enjoy this movie so much, and why it feels tailor-made for me. And honestly, it's almost a near-perfect boxing movie. To me, anyway. Now, I might fail in trying to explain why I feel this way, but let's give it a go anyway.
I broke my back.
So Southpaw might have released in 2015, but this project was in the works much longer than that. You see, the writer Kurt Sutter wanted to make a movie with Eminem, and had several conversations with him about what kind of movie it should be. And Sutter thought that a boxing movie was most fitting, and wanted to pull several aspects from Eminem's real life to help sculpt out the background for the main character, Billy Hope, for whom Eminem was gonna play. Now, this was all back in 2010 or so years before they even entered pre-production, where they were just kind of kicking around ideas, getting a script made. But Sutter and Eminem finally settled on the idea, and got a rough draft of the script written up. But it would take another few years for the project to actually be put into production. You see, first it was picked up by DreamWorks in 2010, then it was dropped, and then it was picked up by MGM in late 2012 for a little bit, but at around the same time, Eminem dropped from the movie as a star to focus his attention on his music, more than likely the Marshall Mathers LP 2. So he was no longer in the leading role, but he still opted to stay on the project as a producer and help assist on the soundtrack. And then news went quiet for a little bit while they looked around for a director and a new star, and they found them in 2014. Antoine Fuqua was revealed to be the director, and Jake Gyllenhaal was announced to be in the leading role as Billy Hope, along with Forrest Whitaker, Rachel McAdams, and 50 Cent. A very solid lineup. And originally Tyrese Gibson was in the cast of the movie as well, but apparently all his scenes were cut out. But production and filming began halfway through 2014 and was set for a 2015 release. The movie was now being backed by Wanda Pictures, along with Antoine Fuqua's own company, Fuqua Films, and distributed by the Weinstein Company. But let's pause for a second before we talk about the movie itself and mention all the green flags that just popped up. First being Kurt Sutter. Kurt Sutter is the creator and head writer of one of my favorite shows of all time, Sons of Anarchy. And he also worked on The Shield. So seeing him attached to this project already piqued my interest. Anything that guy does, I at least want to check out. So having him as the writer was a huge plus. Next, of course, is Eminem. Yeah, he wasn't the star of the movie anymore, but he still stayed on as producer. But more importantly, he was still sticking around and assisting on the soundtrack. And oh yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. So Eminem's involvement, also a plus. Third is the director, Antoine Fuqua. Some of you might not know him by name, but you've definitely seen some of his movies. Stuff like Training Day, Tears of the Sun, The Shooter, Brooklyn's Finest, Olympus Has Fallen, The Equalizer trilogy, Magnificent Seven, just all around pretty damn good movies. He's one of those like super consistent, solid directors that always delivers. Seriously, the guy doesn't have that many bad movies. He's up there as one of my personal favorite directors because I just consider him to be very underrated. So him being the director was a solid choice. Next, you got Jake Gyllenhaal. I think he's a great actor and can be pretty versatile when needed. I mean, right before this, the guy was Lou Bloom in Nightcrawler, a very different character in nearly every way. And by 2015, the guy was on fire and just really making waves. So I was hooked as soon as I saw him in the lead role. And the cherry on top is that it's a boxing movie. I like boxing movies. It's that simple. If there's a boxing movie coming out, it usually interests me just because I like watching underdog stories or maybe a fallen hero story. I mean, in boxing and sports movies in general, there are only like those few options for the type of story you can tell. But regardless, when done well, they make for a very entertaining time. So all the pieces are in place. The script is written by someone I like. It's being directed by someone I like. The soundtrack is being made by someone I like. It's starring someone I like, and it's in a genre that I like. There was basically no way I couldn't like this movie, and that's exactly how it went. All these pieces came together and made a movie that seems pretty solid to most, but to me, it's up there as one of my favorite boxing movies. So let's talk about it now, and oh yeah, spoilers ahead.
I'm gonna make you my girlfriend.
So Southpaw is about a boxer named Billy Hope. He's the reigning champ and is fighting to stay on top. But after getting into a confrontation with a rival boxer, his wife is shot and killed in the crossfire. And not long after, Billy spirals out of control and eventually loses it all. His belt, his house, his cars, and more importantly, his daughter. So now he goes to a trainer to help reinvent himself in the ring and outside of it. So yeah, it's a pretty typical fallen hero type of story where the protagonist loses it all and now he must adjust and change to get it all back. You've seen it before, but you know it's a simple story and premise. It's all about the execution. And and that's where Southpaw nails it. For starters, the performances all around are great. Everyone did a good job. Even the child actors wasn't that bad, but Jake Gyllenhaal really does steal the show here. His character just feels so real, from his mannerisms, his temper, his speech pattern. The guy is a loose cannon, and honestly, we've all met someone like this at some point in our lives. He's a street tough guy who's always had to use brute force and strength to overcome adversity. The only person that kept him on the straight and narrow and guided him was his wife, but with her gone, he has to learn to do it himself. And seeing him change and struggle throughout the movie is really the highlight. The character is flawed but redeemable, and you just feel attached to him and just want to see him improve. And that's really what he does. Gets better inside the ring, but more importantly, outside of the ring. Learn to control his anger, learn to think things through more, and really just trying to do what's best for his daughter. Honestly, it's a really good journey. And the man to help put him on the right path and feed him wisdom is Forrest Whitaker's character, Tick Wills. He's a trainer, and he taught the boxer who should have beaten Billy Hope by decision, but didn't because Billy's manager, played by 50 Cent, bribed the judges so that Billy would win. But Billy knows that he lost the fight, and that's why he came to him. Of course, Tick Wills is reluctant to help, but through some conversations with Billy, he decides to help him out. They have their ups and downs, they butt heads, but it's through his words and teachings that Billy finally changes and evolves not only as a fighter, but as a person. And honestly, all the other actors did a good job too. 50 Cent was good at being the backstabbing friend, Rachel McAdams was good as the love interest, and like I said earlier, even the child actress was good. There's just not a bad performance to be had in this movie. Everybody did a good job. But now, after hearing all these descriptions, you probably think you've seen these characters and dynamics before, and yes, you have. But again, it's done so well that I can't help but enjoy it. And that's really how this whole movie is. It's several types of characters and story beats you've seen before, but elevated by good performances. And I also want to talk about the presentation. What's a boxing movie without boxing, right? And this movie's got it. Not only are the fights well choreographed and well shot, but the details of having it look like a real HBO pay-per-view event and having Roy Jones Jr. there commentating really makes it feel real. Along with the hits, because man, it looks like they're beating the shit out of each other. The makeup effects for the cuts and bruises are great, and mixed with the blood and sweat, it makes for a very raw feeling at times. And the sets and locations also add to the realness. Besides being able to have the HBO branding on the big fights, it's also the small things like the streets, the tiny gym, the buildings, that gives it a more authentic feel. Everything from when Billy is on top of the world in his clean mansion to when he's back on the dirty streets. And from my understanding, they shot a lot of this in Pittsburgh, even though it is set in New York, but that explains the gritty look and feel. So I just overall love the look and feel of this movie, and the little details that give this a more authentic presentation. But the last thing I want to talk about is the music. It's pretty awesome. Not only are the two songs by Eminem great and fit the vibe of the movie perfectly, but the rest of the songs on the soundtrack are also good. It features artists like Tech Nine, Busta Rhymes, King Crooked, Slaughterhouse, Biggie, Logic, 50 Cent, Royce da 5'9", and of course Eminem himself, like I already mentioned. I just remember leaving the theater and then immediately playing the soundtrack in my car on the way home, cause damn, it was awesome. I mean, it features a lot of artists that I like and follow. Again, like it was cooked up just for me. The song Beast still gets me fired up. Now, I put a lot of focus on Eminem for the music section because the Southpaw soundtrack was distributed by his label, Shady Records, as well as featuring many artists that he has connections with. So it's no small stretch to say that he was more involved than just the two songs he did. But I do want to mention that music is credited to James Horner, who did the score for the Titanic, Avatar, Aliens, and The Amazing Spider-Man. He did a good job arranging the music as well, so even though I believe Eminem was probably more involved in reaching out and getting artists on board, I don't want to downplay James Horner's work as well. In short, the music is great and everyone involved deserves a round of applause. So finally, when all this comes together, the great performances, the good fights, and the music, you get an experience that feels like it was made just for me. There isn't much I would complain about except for maybe like 2 or 3 things. First would be, I would like to see Billy have at least one more fight while he's learning and changing his style, so that we can really see him grow and change and adapt in between fights. But considering the runtime, I think it would have pushed the movie further past the 2-hour mark, and would have felt maybe a bit too long. But I feel the second half of the movie goes by pretty fast, and in the context of the movie, they go by a lot of time pretty quickly. Like it's supposed to be months, at least 2 or 3, but it doesn't feel that long at all. Maybe those deleted scenes with Tyrese Gibson were supposed to fill in the blanks more and make this journey feel longer. But again, it would have pushed it past the 2-hour mark, so they probably decided to cut it. It's not a real complaint, just kind of a nitpick really. Second, I would have liked to see more of the other boxer, Miguel. He's okay, but he's really not the main focus for most of the movie. Although I do like that he's not comically evil. Like when his bodyguard kills Billy's wife, he's just as shocked as everyone else, and he doesn't revel in it. And honestly, he even tries to play it cool with Billy in the beginning, admitting he's just trying to stir up drama to hype up the fight. But of course, Billy's anger pushes things too far. So I like these interactions that we had with him, but just wish we would have seen more. And the third final thing is I would have liked to see more of the side character, Hoppy. He has a few scenes with Tick and Billy, but then unfortunately he's killed later on off screen, and it tears Tick apart. It's not a bad scene at all, but seeing Hoppy more would have made it more impactful, at least for me, the viewer. But other than those few things, I have nothing to complain about. I very much enjoy my time with this movie.
Got me erected. My dick got hard.
So Southpaw has several things in it you've seen before. You've seen this type of story, you've seen these type of characters, hell, you've more than likely seen them in other sports movies. It's almost like a staple of the genre, but the execution is nearly perfect. The performances are great, the fights are great, the music is great, and the writing is great. The movie stays engaging throughout, there's never a dull moment. Even when there's no fighting, I stayed glued to the screen, because these characters are just that well acted. It knows what it wants to do in the story it wants to tell, and just does it to a T. Does it break new ground? Not really. It doesn't reinvent the wheel, but that's not a problem at all. What's stopping it from being generic are all the solid performances from the whole cast and the production value. It's a very well-made movie even though you've seen the story before. Execute with excellence is the saying I would use to describe this movie. It knows what kind of movie it wants to be and just does it with style. Simple as that. I don't really have shit else to say. Honestly, I just really like this movie, and it's personally up there as one of my favorite boxing films. And yeah, maybe I'm a special case because this movie literally combines people who've worked on other things I liked before together into just one project, so I'm gonna be a bit biased because of that. But you know what? I don't care. I accept it. Yeah, that's about it. See ya.
I normally don't do interviews with women unless I fornicate with them. So you shouldn't talk anymore. Unless you wanna.
Take a look.
It's about dick, it's about penis, meant for Mars, but I'm from Venus. Put it in the butt, it's picking up shower intake. What's ours? I want to drain the main vein, prostate massage.